In this video, I want to get started on the filtering. So what I mean by that is currently I can place down a foundation, and where I have one's labeled W for wall, I can also place down a foundation and then another foundation, so on and so on, when I only want to be able to place down a wall here, just like I only want to be able to place down a ceiling there. So we can prevent this kind of stuff from happening. Because it's well, stupid. Anyways, to begin on that, I want to make our get hit socket transform return a custom data structure that contains the transform as well as the socket name, and then we can have a function here for comparison to filter out whether or not we can place the selected item on it. So that can also allow us to have another, well, better yet, we can also even pass in the type that we have right here and do our filtering in there. So that way, if the socket even exists on the hit component, and if the index of it is correct, so what I mean by that is if we head back over to our mesh for the foundation, we have two of them. We have, I'm moving a little fast. We have F position and W position. So the F index, or the F standing for the foundation, and the W standing for the wall. So we may end up doing that instead. That's going to be our first test. And if it becomes too much of a mess, then we will end up moving out and doing it the other way. So what we're going to do is we're going to pass in the, basically the, we're going to have to add another, what do you call it? Parameter here. We want to have a certain character in it. So that's going to be our filter. So what we're going to do is in the structure, we're going to have another U property. And inside of it, it's going to just simply be a F name. And we're going to call this one filter character. So now let's head back over to building.h. Go to our get hit socket transform. We're going to add another one, and this one's going to be a const F name by reference. And this is going to contain that character name. So we want to pass in, let's just call it the filter. And we can set this to something by default. But I guess realistically we want to force it we want to force them to push that in. Let's go ahead and add that. Go to buildingvisual.cpp. And now what we want to do is we want to get our building type, and then we don't want to get the building mesh, we want to get the filter character. So we're going to be getting this guy here. Or better yet, we want to do a test before we do any of that. Actually, no. Sorry. Yeah, we're just going to get all that. And once we do, we want to pass in the filter character. So this is going to be our second parameter. So we pass in the hit result, we pass in our filter character, and the hit distance that we want to have it, be filtered by. So once we have that, we can filter through the socket names as well. So instead of having a big kind of maybe if statement, what we want to do is we're going to create a function to test whether or not it is a valid socket. So let's create a protected function. Do bool is valid socket. Now we need to think of what do we need to pass in. We need to pass in the hit component, as well as we need to pass in the filter. So we're going to pass in a uInstance static mesh component, hit component, as well as the const F name by reference filter. So we have that. I'm going to actually move this down right above that function just to make it a little easier. And then we're going to simply call is valid socket, passing in the hit component as well as our filter. And here we can have all our logic right inside of here. So now let's go ahead and set up a bool, be success, and we're going to set that equal to true by default and do some testing. So if, oh right, and we need to pass in the socket name. So is valid socket, filter, and let's pass in the const F name, socket, name. Almost forgot about that. So if the socket exists, or does not exist, we return false. Or better yet, we'll just go that route. So if the socket does not exist, we return false because that's an instant failure. Now we want to test and see whether or not the filter matches up with the socket name, so the very first character of it. So here we can do our test. Actually, let's call it really quick because I'm forgetting to pass it in. So we're going to pass in socket name just like so. And I think we have to convert these to strings. Let's see. Filter dot, let's compare. Okay. Is there anything like contains? Can I get certain indexes? No, I cannot. Okay, so we have to convert these to strings. So f string, filter, string equals filter dot toString. Next up is f string, socket name equals socket name dot toString. And yes, I realized what I did there. Socket name string. There we go. Okay, now we can do our comparisons. So if socket name string dot contains, and then that contains the string that we want. So if that contains the filter, or sorry, the filter string, then we know we're good to go. So here we can have, so by default it's set to ignore case, and let's go ahead and make this case sensitive as well. So e search case, let's make it case sensitive. Alrighty. So now that we have that set up, we know we are good to go and we can return true. Or better yet, we'll just return false if that is false. And then at the end, we'll return true. And we should really clean this up. So I'm going to do that. Bool be success equals true. In which case we return be success. In this case, I'm going to set same thing again. Be success equals false. And then we just return be success. So that way we're not doing any of this if this fails, and it just looks a little bit cleaner so we kind of have a better idea of what's going on. Okay, let's go ahead and close down the editor, recompile and relaunch, and set that up, and hopefully it'll work. Alrighty, let's go ahead and open everything back up. I want to open up the foundation first. Then our wall, just so I can remember what the names were of the sockets. And then our, let's see, I think it was the building visual. Yeah. Okay, so the wall. The wall has a filter character of what? W, because this is where we want the walls to mount. So the filter character is going to be W, capital. Now we have the foundation. Foundation is going to mount to here where we have the F. So foundation is going to be F. So let's compile and save. Place that down. And as you can see, I can only see the sockets at which they are okay to mount to. So I can attach the foundation there, or there, or there, but I can't attach them anywhere up here. But if I switch to the wall, I can't attach there, there, but I can attach here, 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 and here. So that tells us that we are good to go. Now we have no socket there because we have yet to set up a ceiling, but that'll work for our filtering. So I gotta say, that's actually not too bad. No, I just kind of wung that one on the spot. So I'm kind of happy with that. Anyways, let's go ahead and close this down. And I guess in the next video, we'll just import some ceiling textures, and we'll just duplicate the mesh and import some ceiling textures. Nothing fancy, but it'll just be simple. Anyways, that is going to be all for this video. If you like what I'm doing and you want to help support me, you can find a link to my Patreon down in the description below, where I have a Team Deathmatch series just for Patrons, as well as you get early access to nearly all of my videos, such as this one. If you have any questions or anything like that, feel free to join my Discord. That's also linked down below, and I'll try to help you out. So I'll see you in the next video.